Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friar Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Darren Smith. That's Marty Caswell. The Padres are done with their 11-day, 9-game road trip. They return back home to face the Atlanta Braves and the LA Dodgers. We keep saying it's a prove-it kind of situation for the Padres, 4-5 on the road, which in and of itself, probably not too bad if you just want to look at that in a vacuum. But did they answer any questions? I don't know. That's what we're here to discuss. Marty, good Monday to you.
Darren, good Monday to you. Did they answer any questions? Yes. Yes, they did. I'm not sure, but not in a good way. I think they more reinforced their biggest need, and that's going to probably be, it is the starting pitching, because the starting pitching, go ahead and pinpoint the Texas Rangers series if you want, was an absolute train wreck disaster. Starting with Randy Vasquez on Friday, Darren, I'm not sure how to explain the game, but if the Padres failed this season, if they miss the playoffs, and it seems like they're trending that way, it's so easy to point to what went wrong in Friday's game, Darren, as a microcosm of their entire season. Just the starting pitching melting down, and then wasting Ty France's historic game, and then not getting production from your biggest stars. That, to me, the Friday game.
Yeah, Friday in a nutshell for those that were distracted or paying more attention to the World Cup or NASCAR or whatever else it was that might have taken you away from the Padres. The Padres scored 5 runs in the top of the first inning on Friday in Arlington, Texas. And you're thinking, okay, cool, finally, the Padres are going to play a laugher. They gave up 6 runs in the bottom of the first. So, it made your head spin. Ty France went 3 for 4. Samad Taylor went 3 for 5. Sheets went 2 for 4. They had 8 of the 10 hits that the Padres had in the game. To Marty's point, Manny Machado was 0 for 5. Tatis was 0 for 4. Scored a run. Bogart's 0 for 3. Merrill 0 for 5. So it just was one of those where is that an encapsulation of the Padres in 2026, right? Like you sort of picture Craig Stammen now, right? He's standing in front of this bursting dam and he's trying to plug all the different leaks. One day it's the offense. The other day it's the starting pitching. Then it's the rare time where it's the relief pitching. And then it maybe is the base running, right? So it's just been a little bit of everything. But to Craig Stammen's credit, he shows up every single day. He's like, oh, it's going to get better.
With a smile on his face. With a smile on his face. Every single day.
Do you think that he believes this, or do you think this is just, this is the facade that he is putting up, and then as soon as he walks away from the cameras, he's like, oh, man, this is brutal to watch.
I think he's optimistic by nature, but I also think he's a realist, and I think he's going to go ahead and present one positive image to us and look for the good. Now, he's not going to do what Mike Schill did and, talk about, hey, did you see that at bat? I know we lost by 18 runs, but did you see that one at bat in the 7th? Not like that, but I think there's a sense of reality in himself. But I don't know that if you're Craig Stammen or anybody else, oh yeah, it's going to get better. It's just a matter of time. I think we are well past that here on June 22nd, as I believe the Padres are about to enter a crucial homestand, which we'll get to a little bit later on in the show, but he can't. Now, the one guy he does believe in, Darren, and he made sure to reinforce it again on Saturday night, has been Manny Machado. Like, if you're going to believe in some guy, you can understand why he would believe in Manny and his resume. Manny believes in himself. He's still Manny effing Machado, and I know that Craig Stammen couldn't wait to go ahead and tell people, aha, for those of you second-guessing me every single homestand in certain pre-games, why is Manny Machado batting here? This is why. So he did have that at bat in the extra innings to win the game for the Padres. But I think that's the one sticking point for Craig Stammen, that he can finally say, see, I told you so. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, that was game 2 of the series. Manny Machado hits a home run, a 3-run jack in extra innings. The Padres lose the final game of the series and the road trip to return home 4-5. And Marty, like I said off the top, I think a 4-5 road trip is probably fine most of the time. Even if you want to say the Texas Rangers and Baltimore Orioles are kind of crummy teams,
right?
I still would think overall, when you're traveling and you're going through the heat and humidity, I think overall 4-5 is probably something you'd say, yeah, okay, given where we're at, we'll probably take it.
Yeah.
But when you said trending in the wrong direction, let's talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned it's June 22nd. If you go back to May 23rd, the Padres were a season high 11 games over 500. Since then, they are 8-17, and they are now 2 games over 500. So 2 things can be true. A 4-5 road trip in a vacuum is probably okay. But when you're talking about the month of June being an important month, the Padres are 7-11, and you've gone from 11 games over 500 in the last month to 2 games over 500, which will set us up for what we'll talk about a little later with the Atlanta Braves and LA Dodgers. That is not inspiring. And then, like I said, it feels like you're putting out one fire after another. Lucas Giolito can't get anybody out. You're going to openers now, whether it's him, Griffin Canning. Michael King hasn't been great of recent. So, there's a lot that you're dealing with here. So we'll set up the rest of the next upcoming homestand, which I'm sure, there will, like we keep saying, is this team telling its general manager anything about what the approach should be when the MLB trade deadline finally comes here? It's a little bit more than a month away. So you still have a little bit of time, but we're also going to talk to Evan Drellich of The Athletic, senior writer for The Athletic. We're going to talk a little bit about ownership, because I do think that's a big part of this conversation is, when might we find out that Kwanza Jones and Jose Feliciano are going to be officially approved by other MLB owners. We had been told that the month of June was probably when that was going to happen, and now there seems to be some uncertainty about that. And plus,
sometime this summer, a change to sometime this summer. Right.
Which maybe is helpful and maybe not. But, there's also plenty of things to discuss about the collective bargaining agreement. So just be prepared for that. We're gonna have that conversation here today about what the future of the sport looks like. Anything else that you want to say about the road trip, about the 4-5 road trip, or just about the Padres overall in June or over the last month?
No, but I would ask you the same question that you asked me, Darren. Did they answer any questions for you on this road trip?
No, they did not.
No.
Jackson, they get a return over 500. They did. Right. Okay, credit to them.
Right.
Not rooting against it, but in terms of, hey, as I've heard this president of baseball operations, AJ Preller, say a few times, and he said it again recently, what the approach will be at the trade deadline, the team will tell us. The team will tell us what the approach is going to be. And I just don't think that the team is telling anybody right now that this is a team that is worth investing in yet. I just don't see that. I understand you're getting 3 million people through the turnstiles at Petco Park. It's great. But if he is truly waiting for the team to make some sort of statement, Marty, we're still talking about a team that's last in every offensive category. And now the pitching is starting to become more worrisome than it was even a couple of weeks ago.
It's fallen apart.
I'm not sure what message this team is sending to the
the worst velocity of Lucas Giolito's career. So I think it's very, very concerning. And I can't imagine that if you were the Padres or the Padres fans, you're thinking, you know what? Just wait till Jhonny Brito gets here. That's going to go ahead and solve all their issues. When you want to start, you start with the starting pitching, but there's still plenty of questions about the offense. You want to point to some signs. Jackson Merrill's looking a lot better than he has early to start the season, Darren, but still. The same questions that plague this Padres team were just only magnified during this road trip. And now the Braves and the Dodgers. Here we go.
Yeah, and even today, if you want to just on a Monday get up and read Kevin Acee or Dennis Lin, it's the same theme, right? It's the same exact theme, which is that the starting pitching is really hemorrhaging right now, and it is not sustainable. So from that standpoint, it's a big week. It's a big week, which we'll talk about coming up in a little bit. But when we return, we will talk a little bit about Padres ownership. And is there a delay? Is there any reason for concern, or is it just standard operating procedure? What's going on? Evan Drellich of The Athletic will join us next.
Hey, sometimes we do a little game on Foul Territory called role play. It's not what you think. We're just picking up our phones and we're talking as if we're somebody in baseball. But if you'd like that phone to be a little bit cheaper for making phone calls, who should you call, Kratz?
Mint Mobile, because you get all the same speed with a tiny little price.
Same coverage, tiny price. Ready to stop paying more than you have to? New customers can make the switch today, and for a limited time, get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Save money. Get after it, FT fam.
All right, Marty. Well, let us welcome in Evan Drellich, senior writer from The Athletic, who is doing a lot of the heavy lifting early on here when it comes to some of the collective bargaining agreement talk. I know we're still months away from any possible work stoppage, lockout, or otherwise, but we do appreciate him taking a couple of minutes to join us here on Friar Territory. Evan, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Before we start and dive into some of the CBA stuff, it's June 22nd, and the Padres were put up for sale earlier this year, and new owners weren't officially announced, kind of, sort of, maybe, with Kwanza Jones and Jose Feliciano, but they haven't been voted in by MLB ownership yet. I wonder if you can give us an update on that situation.
Supposedly, it's going to happen later in the summer. It is not entirely clear at this point why it hasn't happened yet, except for there's a lot of things that need to be lined up, including the financing, the paperwork, for not just Jose and his wife, but the various other investors. Everything's got to be in position by that point that they take that vote. And so it's possible that some piece of that is taking longer than they would have expected. It's also possible they would have thought, no, this is about the right amount of time it would normally take. So I don't think there's anything to read into it yet. Manfred said at the June owners meeting in New York publicly to the media that he expected it sometime during the summer. And so, if we're having the same conversation in August and we don't know when the vote is, I think then you can start to raise an eyebrow.
Okay. And do you have any sense of where that leaves the Padres currently? Only because as it applies to the team on the field, there have to be some decisions made about the trade deadline before too long. Is it still John Seidler? He's the chairman. Is there influence or input from the incoming ownership group? Do you have any sense of how things are operating on a day-to-day basis currently?
I haven't asked anybody directly. My instinct would be this: if you were going to do something notable, moving a large amount of money one way or another, somehow there's a back channel conversation that exists of, how would you guys feel about this if we did this? And it's quite possible that you don't end up with any kind of notable swing one way or another. I think probably the understanding would be keep things roughly where they are, but it would be case by case, and it would require asking some more direct questions that probably people wouldn't answer.
Evan, I know you wrote recently about the back and forth between MLB and MLBPA. Anything that's jumping out at you about what the league is proposing when it comes to the domestic and international draft?
They're proposing to cut a lot of money, which is the first thing that I think jumps out at the union. The reliance on colleges, the way MLB has proposed this, so that they want to do a 12-round international and 12-round domestic draft. Right now, we only have a domestic draft. Basically, MLB is saying, look, we don't need to take on this development effort as much on our own as we do now. And obviously, colleges exist right now, but they're trying to raise the age at which players can be drafted, both internationally and in the U.S. And internationally, they want to bring it up. Right now, you got to turn 17 by September 1st, the year you're drafted. They want it to be 18 internationally now. But the bigger jump is on the domestic side, where they want it to be 20. So that's a huge change the league is asking for. It is one that the union immediately said, we don't like this, which in a way it's all kind of expected at this point, because everybody's kind of making their big ask in their initial proposals. I don't think the league expects the players to accept this vision of the world that they have put forth here. But it is stark. It is a notable change from what we have today to try to eliminate high school draft picks. Right? It's a major system change, and it didn't land well with the players.
Saw some. I think Paul Skeens is one of the more notable players to come out with a statement against the proposals. That would be interesting. What's their biggest sticking point? I mean, I know this is gonna get ugly, a lot uglier as the months go by. But what is the biggest sticking point for the league at this point?
It's always money. A labor negotiation in any walk of life, doesn't matter if it's sports or it's baseball, you're fighting over the economics. There are other things that are going to come up, and certainly the league has framed its argument for a salary cap around competitive balance. You're not willing to forego, a year of revenue or whatever it might take to convince the players to relent on a salary cap just for the sake of competitive balance. You are willing to forego billions of dollars in revenue for the reason that you believe at some point it will also make you billions of dollars more than you have lost. And so a salary cap certainly thus far has been the number one issue. It is a huge difference compared to today. It would make baseball look more similar to the NBA, NFL, and NHL than it does now. And that's an age-old fight in baseball. The 94-95 strike, which lasted 232 days and canceled a World Series. A salary cap was a large part of that. The players successfully, in their minds, warded it off. They did not allow a cap to come in. And the question is, will we get a cap this time? Are the owners willing to say we're going to try to miss games for this? How long, if that's the case, do the players fight them? Do the players say, okay, we'll sit out an entire season if you want a salary cap? So it's hard to point to anything but a salary cap. But the one thing, Marty, I would say here is they're talking very different languages on basically everything at this point. And that's not to be too alarmist. It is, again, the start of a negotiation. The current deal is going to expire in December. There's probably going to be a lockout that started at that point. It's really not until the spring that I would expect you start to see material movement, and maybe you start to see things taking shape. But there's a real chance that come the spring next year, the owners are still pushing a cap. The players are still saying we don't want a cap, and we're staring down potentially missed games in 2027.
Based on everything that you just laid out there, and just how much money is at stake now, and just the franchise values, and I know the Padres were held as a poster boy as to what happens when you invest. Would you expect this to be a lot longer than the work stoppage in 1994?
Longer than the work stoppage in 94, 95? I wouldn't, and here's the reason. I think it's hard for any group, the owners, the 30 lead owners, but they all have investors to answer to. So it's really not just a group of 30. And, the 1,200 or so players that are in the union at a given time, 30 teams times 40, the 40-man rosters. It's very hard to convince any group to kind of act in unison for a particularly long time. The money is greater today. There's just more incentive to play. The industry, the last number we have via MLB was in 2024. It was a $12.1 billion haul. So that's the total amount of revenue that came in through Major League Baseball in 24. We don't know what 25 is. It always goes up outside of a pandemic season. So presumably this year, you're around 13. You've either cracked 13 or you're about to. That's a lot of money for a lot of people to leave on the table here. And in a way, it becomes a referendum on, well, are things really so bad that you're willing to forego billions of dollars in revenue? And I kind of thought last time the players have been pushed around for a decade with service time manipulation, tanking. It had gotten pretty ugly with the way front offices were handling players. They didn't miss a single game. And so I think there's too much at stake and there's too many reasons to play. Now, if the 30 owners get together and say, you know what, our franchise values are lagging the NBA, the NFL, which they are not selling for the same revenue multiple. So the Padres were kind of a jump up for baseball, that they sold for about 6 to 7 times their annual revenue. NBA teams, NFL teams might go for 12 times. If the baseball owners look around and go, you know what, we want to get to that point where we're selling for a lot more. Our investment's instantly going to go up. Screw it. We'll miss a year if that's what it takes. That's the wild card here. Do enough owners? You need 23 owners to be on the same page to ratify a CBA. So if you have a group of 8 that's saying no, so 23 is kind of the magic number. If those 23 get together and say we're willing to miss a lot of time, then it could be that doomsday scenario. But I don't see it yet. Ask me in March.
Evan, it's interesting. I'm glad that you brought up because I read what you wrote about the revenue and about the franchise valuation and how it is not pacing as well as it is in the NBA or the NFL. And I thought to myself, who cares? Like, why would a fan care?
Right.
Not a reflection of your work, my friend. Just so you know.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder. Just a finger in the air opinion about the court of public opinion. You know, who do you sense now? How do you sense that the messaging is coming through to the fans of this sport? Do you sense that people would care about that, about, franchise valuation? The Padres were an $800 million team that just sold for a valuation of $3.9 billion. It feels like that's a pretty good deal for most people, for most fans of the sport that just want to watch baseball games. So how do you sense that the PR campaign, the court of public opinion is going early on, at least based on some of the stuff that you've written and the kind of feedback that you get?
I think it depends to some degree on the subset of topics. So if the Athletic did a poll recently, it is not a scientific poll. It should not be treated as a scientific poll, but it's nonetheless a poll that fans can fill out and respond to, and gives you a little, at least slice of a glimpse of how people are thinking. And from memory, the responses when they were asked, do you care? There were two individual questions, I believe, about do you care about how the owners do economically? Do you care about how the players do economically? And the answer for both was no. I think there was a little bit more caring for the players than the owners in the responses we got back. Look, fans look at the NBA, the NFL, the NHL. They see salary caps everywhere, and I think there is a baseline. If you were to draw up the most fair way to do things, everybody would have the same salary figure. You'd give each team X million and say, this is everybody starting on the same platform. But that the negotiation is not about what is most fair or what is best for fans. If it was best, if the league was at every point trying to do what is best for fans, beer prices would be $3. That's not how this works, right? This is ultimately about money on both sides. And both sides will have to deal with some amount of angry fans, a very large amount of angry fans if there are missed games. Where does that swing on balance? Is it 60% angry at players or 60% angry at owners? Kind of to be seen. We haven't had. I think Marty referenced Paul Skeens making a comment. We've seen some players talk at this point. In my experience, when players speak up, there's more an emotional attachment that fans have for what players think and believe than anything else. And so, if you got to the point of April or May and you have star players across the league ripping the owners, which side are the fans going to be on? Are they going to side with the guy whose jersey they own, or are they going to side with the guy who owns the team? I don't know. I think the bottom line for me, there will be so much animosity in public. The rights holders, the sponsors, the season ticket holders, which are fans, the casual fan who just wants to watch. There's going to be so much energy directed toward getting baseball back on the field, including potentially from the White House, that the question of who's getting more pressure, I don't know that it's going to matter. I think they're both going to feel a ton of pressure if they miss games.
Marty referenced the Padres a little bit earlier in the sale, the valuation, et cetera. We've also seen the Padres held up by the MLB Players Association as an example of what can be done in some of these markets, right? For a lot of people, I don't believe that some teams cannot compete. I believe that they choose not to compete, right? There's been no team that has been more impacted by the LA Dodgers than the Padres. Not one. There's no team that's played the Dodgers more. The Padres have finished behind the Dodgers every single season since 2011, and yet they still are getting 3 million people through the turnstile every year. So, I don't believe this stuff that Manfred puts out there when he talks about competitive balance and he talks about parity, and he said it's been good in baseball, but then he's worried about how you sell tickets in the offseason. But the Padres should be held up as an example for somebody here. Evan, I don't know who exactly, but I feel like we're sort of the bandana in the middle of this tug of war when it comes to baseball. How do you think that the Padres, whether it's the sale, whether it's their attendance, their success, their payroll, I just feel like we're going to hear a lot about the Padres like when these guys are all negotiating, right?
No, that's right. And you referenced, I did this long story on franchise values recently, and the Padres sale more or less spurs that story because they do sell at a higher revenue multiple. Why do they sell at a higher revenue multiple than the other baseball teams before them? And the answer is because they've done such a good job getting people into the stadium. Well, how have they done such a good job getting people into the stadium? They've spent a lot of money. Now, the owners can say, okay, the Padres went for 7x rather than 6x. Good, better. It's not 12x. It's not the NBA. It's not the NFL. They can take that position. Where you end up is in kind of a large existential philosophical discussion about, should a baseball team be bought to be an investment? The reality is they are. Kind of whether or not they should be. The owners certainly treat them that way, and they have big money riding on maximizing the value of these things. And surely they want to do that as cheaply as possible. And so you have other owners who look at what the Padres did and go, well, I can't do that. I can't pour this much money into it. I can't, on an operating basis, year to year, lose X millions of dollars. Whether they could or could not is ultimately their decision. We don't see their books. The union does get quarterly financial information. The union has a pretty good picture of how these teams are doing, but they can't disclose it publicly, and the league certainly doesn't volunteer this stuff publicly. So sometimes I hear people say, well, the books aren't open. That's not really true. They're open to the union. They're not open to the three of us, which is too bad here. But yeah, at its core, this fight is over. Okay, you have some teams that have much lower revenues than others. What's the way to fix that? The league is saying the way to fix that is to put a salary cap in, cut off the head, eliminate these $700 million types of contracts. The players are saying you don't have to do that. There are other things we can do with revenue sharing, things to incentivize teams to behave like the Padres, get them to spend more if they're kind of bottom feeding teams. Which way will prevail is what we're grabbing our popcorn here and trying to find out.
Yeah, and just to be real quick, because you wrote this and you quoted the commissioner, and he's talking about, I'm just going to read this quote from The Athletic. When we think about it from a labor perspective, we're focused on an entirely different part of the calendar. That is the off season, when you're trying to sell season tickets, and the perception among our fans that's really strong is we have a lack of competitiveness. And again, I just go back to what the Padres are doing. They're going to break 3 million again. And this is a team that has finished second to the Dodgers for well over a decade. I don't understand that. Like, it just doesn't gel for me. It just doesn't jive what he's talking about. If they're having trouble selling tickets in the offseason, why don't they look at the Padres and say, well, how are you guys doing it?
Yeah, there's a very interesting reliance on fan sentiment that the league is using to shape its arguments here. We're trying to serve fans, and they're almost in a way removing themselves from kind of the culpability or kind of the accountability to the actions that might spur fan sentiment. There'd be a whole interesting discussion of the PR that the sides are employing here. And I think particularly the league, because the league often frames it as a perception, as a fan perception that the team can't compete. Well, then you get into a whole other discussion about, does the math show that teams cannot compete? What do we mean by compete? Does it mean make a playoff? Does it mean win a World Series? We've long known that baseball's playoff system is relatively random. One thing on the question, on the quote you just read back to me, that was his response to a question I had asked. The question I had asked, paraphrasing, was basically, you guys say this is kind of harming the way fans view the sport. Do you have any specifics you can point to as to where that harm shows up? Is it in ticket sales? Is it in the... And I don't expect him to necessarily carry around a list of statistics to rattle off at every moment. He didn't rattle off a number that says, here's where we're seeing this clear decline because of this perception that exists. And so what I'm trying to say is there's so much loaded into every argument here, including what is the state of parity in baseball? Would a salary cap fix it? What is the state of it compared to the other sports? It's stuff that takes hours in a discussion to really unpack.
Two quick things for me, Evan, because you mentioned that the White House could get involved if there's a stalemate. I do believe that the White House has already come out in favor of a salary cap, so I'm sure the MLBPA is going to love that one. And a quick thing on the Padres, just what have you gotten any indication what sort of owners, financial owners, you expect Kwanza Jones and Jose E. Feliciano to be? We know that Peter Seidler was beloved by San Diegans for how he spent. He was asked about how sustainable it was to go and hand out these contracts. What are you expecting from the new group?
Right. So President Trump was asked, I believe it was aboard Air Force One by some of the White House press corps. Someone in that group asked, "Do you support a salary cap or not?" And his response, I think his initial response was, "Don't they already have one?" Which is a reference to, I guess, to the luxury tax, I'm assuming. But when it was clarified for him that no, they do not, then his answer was yes. So he's already, lightly jumped in. He was asked a question about it. It's not like he just issued a statement kind of on a random Tuesday. But if this does drag on, if there is a lockout that is threatening games, the president has at so many points involved himself with professional and amateur sports. It would be surprising if he didn't try to move the needle in some direction, try to be the one to mediate a deal, any and all of the above. You'd expect some involvement from him in his office, and it might not only be his office. You could see perhaps senators, other politicians getting involved. So we'll see. On the Padres ownership question, I'd only be speculating. The amount of money. My instinct here is that what Peter Seidler did was pretty unique and special for fans. And the history shows us that most owners aren't going to behave that way. And so I don't know if you can expect someone walking in to any ownership group to do what he was doing, which is, you can argue, too bad. But I just think if you look at the body of evidence that exists, how do most owners behave? How is somebody with the background that Feliciano has coming from private equity? Most of those guys kind of are pretty disciplined. And Peter, you can argue, was not disciplined to great results, or often great results. So I don't know is what I'm saying, but I think just look at the evidence of how most owners operate. Most of them don't operate like Peter.
And Evan's also written really good stuff about the future of private equity, which we're not ready for yet when it comes to this ownership group, but maybe somewhere down the road. Evan, I mean this. A lot of the stuff that you've written has been super informative for people. I realize we got a long way to go in this journey when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement, but it has been really, really great reporting from you, and we do appreciate your time here on Friar Territory. Thanks so much for taking it.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you to Evan Drellich of The Athletic. It is time for Daily Dingers, presented by FanDuel. Baseball fans, MLB season full swing. FanDuel giving you a chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. Joining the action's easy. Make a free pick who's going to hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you're going to get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. Marty, I'm going to give you a pop quiz. Are you ready for this right now when it comes to home runs?
Yes, go for it. Let's go.
Matt Olson of the Braves leads the Braves with 20 home runs. He is currently 6th in Major League Baseball in home runs. Can you name, how many of the top 5 can you name off the top of your head?
Okay, let's see. Kyle Schwarber, right? Because I think he just...
That is number 1.
Number
Ding,
1,
ding,
Kyle
ding.
Schwarber. James Wood is, I know he's in the top 5 because he had 20. He had 20. No, I'm going to go James Wood.
He is not in the top
What?
5. He is tied with Matt Olson for 6th with 20. You are correct. He does have 20. But believe it or not, Matt Olson, 6th with the Atlanta Braves, first baseman, 20 jacks. You got number 1. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 more to go that are ahead of Matt Olson. I'll give you another couple of seconds to think about it.
Someone on the Dodgers? No, it's not. No, it's not Ohtani. Not Ohtani. By the way, I was hoping that I thought he might be gone a little bit longer for paternity leave, but he's already back, so the Padres will face him. Well, it's no one on the Padres.
It is not anybody on the Padres. No. Yordan Alvarez is number 2 with 25 home runs.
All right.
Brian Buxton, Marty, is third on this list with 24 home runs.
Wow.
Ben Rice of the Yankees, he's a first baseman for the Yankees, has 22 home runs. And Hunter Goodman, catcher for the Colorado Rockies, has 21 home runs. Those are the top 5 in the sport for anybody that's thinking about going over to FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel.com/podcast. Get started. FanDuel.com/podcast. Opt in. Daily Dingers. Make your free pick. Who's going to hit a homer? Play ball. Swing for the fences on FanDuel, official partner of MLB. Do you think Matt Olson? And he's coming in here. He's the Braves leader. Is that who you got your eye on, or somebody else this week for the Pods?
I'm gonna go with somebody else. I'm gonna try and make this optimistic, even though I mean it has not been great when it comes to the offense. I'm gonna go with Jackson Merrill. He's been hot. If you want some optimism, number one, Samad Taylor has been phenomenal. Hair on fire the way he's playing. He can hit anywhere. First, second.
12-game hitting streak.
Amazing. He's a great story. He had his first career home run on this series. I'm gonna go with Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill to me is the hot hand. Seeing some great things from him offensively, defensively. 15 out of 16 in stolen bases. I'm gonna say Jackson Merrill hits a home run, Darren, in this Braves series. How about you? You're going to go with Matt
Well, the last
Olson,
time we saw
cracking
Fernando
the top.
Tatis Jr. taking it at bat at Petco Park, he hit a walk-off home run.
Okay.
So the Padres could have a happy flight on their way to Baltimore. So what if he went back-to-back plate appearances there for Fernando Tatis Jr., where he hits a home run? I also think Matt Olson coming to town is probably going to do a little bit of damage here. Again, I mean, that's crazy to me, looking at the top 5 list. I'm like, Hunter Goodman and Ben Rice.
Yeah.
What have I missed so far this year? That's what happens when you just pay too much attention to one team like the Padres.
I know. Hyper-focused on that.
Anyway, there you go. So
it's a little bit strange. It's strange. It's real quick. It's just strange that you're talking about the top 5 and you don't have Ohtani or Aaron Judge in either category at all. Schwarber, no surprise at all. I mean, he's ridiculous, but he's on pace for 60 this season. Even with my math, I can figure that out. But
anyway,
we'll see.
FanDuel.com/podcast. Opt in to Daily Dingers. Make a free pick today. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, Marty, Atlanta Braves, LA Dodgers. We have King, Canning, Vasquez. Those are the starters that are lined up. We'll see what happens if there's going to be an opener, and then you'll get the bulk innings for Canning again. Lined up against Holmes, Richie, Perez. We can get to the Dodger series a little later.
Right.
I know when the Dodgers are coming to town, there's always the tendency to look a little bit ahead to what it is that's happening on a Friday night with Walker Buehler. And like you said earlier, Jhonny Brito figures to settle into the mix at some point, but
I can't
Atlanta
imagine
Braves, Monday,
yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Atlanta Braves, one of the best teams in baseball. I can't imagine anyone should be looking past this Braves team. Just can't. This to me is a make. I feel like I say it every single homestand. This feels like a make or break homestand. So many times these players are asked, when the Dodgers come in town, are the Dodgers the measuring stick for the Padres when it comes to figuring out who you guys are? The Braves certainly should be. That's a playoff team. That's a team that you would likely see if they can make it there. This to me is a crucial homestand. Are you going to win the division? No. But you can get buried against teams the caliber of the Braves and the Dodgers. No margin for error at all.
These are literally the 2 best teams in baseball.
Yeah.
When it comes to their record, these are the 2 best teams. I think the Dodgers are a game ahead of the Atlanta Braves. So if you're searching for measuring sticks or statements, this is it. This is your week. And Marty's point is right. It's the Braves, it's the Dodgers, literally the 2 best records in baseball. Back-to-back, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Petco Park. So it does speak for itself. Thank you again to Evan Drellich of The Athletic. Don't forget you can subscribe to Friar Territory on YouTube, wherever it is that you find your podcasts, if you just prefer the audio-only version of the show. You can also go to friarterritoryshop.com and you can find the very latest Friar Territory gear. There's everything there from shirts to hats to onesies to drinking bottles, all sorts of things. So find whatever it is. Do take a quick look there, and keep Marty in the lifestyle that she's become accustomed to. So
Yes,
thank you
very much.
I mean, I just want to say real quick about the Evan Drellich and stuff. I mean, do fans really care that baseball franchises aren't growing at the same rate as they are in the NFL or the NBA? Like, is that a winning argument for people in the court of public opinion? Because I'm like, why would fans care about this?
They don't.
I don't understand.
The only people that the owners care. That's no one. Literally, no one else cares. No one. Is my team winning? Is my team spending? Is my team spending money? Is it fun to watch this product?
I hope Evan didn't think I was like knocking his work.
No.
Like,
I know.
Who cares about this? But
I know.
Like, that's what you're going with, owners. You're going with, well, our franchises. We have to settle for less billions of dollars when it comes time to sell. Like, I'm sorry, like that doesn't really make a ton of sense. And again, like no team has been more impacted by the Dodgers than the Padres.
Right.
Nobody has played the Dodgers more over the last 15 years than the Padres. And they finished second to them all the time. And this idea that you can't sell tickets because of the Dodgers is just not true when you look at how the Padres have gone about their business. So whatever. I don't mean to sound like a labor hog, but you got to do a better job than that if you're trying to convince people that this is worth some sort of work stoppage. So, and I don't think that they're doing it. There's my own 2 cents on that. So, all right, Marty, enjoy the rest of your day. Marty will be there, so be on the lookout for some of her work. She will be heading to Petco Park to welcome home the San Diego Padres after their 4-5 road trip. Do you have questions lined up? Are you going to be needling people before the start of the game today?
Darren, I got my sense of urgency question out on the last homestand, so I need to go ahead and build off that one.
Statement, measuring sticks. All sorts of that fun stuff, too. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back. More Friar Territory coming at you later this week. For Marty, I'm Darren. Enjoy the rest of your day.